All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
But I'm Andrew.
No, I'm Andrew.
No, I'm Andrew.
No, I'm Andrew.
No, I'm Andrew.
All right, fine, we can both be Andrew.
Okay, we're a collective now Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay, like that.
I like it. Now, do your intro music.
Oh, yeah, wait, what button?
Danger, danger.
I like it. I'm into it.
I feel like I just do the scream and it works. But yeah, I'll take the other bit.
Yeah.
High voltage.
I think the screaming's right. Do you know what I mean?
Spot on. It's how I wake up every morning. Screaming into the abyss.
Don't we all do that in our own way? I scream
True.
into my pillow.
I just scream
Yeah.
just at the world.
Bless you, you do look tired. But thank you for coming. It's been ages.
It has been a while.
How have you been?
Been all right.
Yeah.
Been busy. Same old,
Yeah.
same old.
Good. That's what we like to hear.
How have you been?
Yeah, surviving.
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 Good.
That's all you can do. As I said to Alex last week in Keir Starmer's Britain, all you can do is survive.
How can we get a Labour guy in and then he's like
Not Labour.
not Labour?
Yeah. No, it's confusing. And like, I mean, to be honest, what was it? The spending review yesterday.
Yeah.
Like everything I've listened to about that, they're like, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's not going to quite do. Like, it's decent. They're like, it's going to do some stuff, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you watched Clarkson's Farm?
Yes, I have.
Have you watched the newest season?
Yes, I've watched all of it. I'm not going to lie, because I've been quite vocal. I hate Jeremy Clarkson, but I love Clarkson's Farm.
I love it because it proper. I feel like it really humanises him. Like it takes.
Of course it does.
The ego out where he's just being a complete.
Well, and I think because the clever thing about it, he's the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's very, like, and I've seen him be interviewed about it, and he's like, I know nothing.
Yeah.
And he was like, the fact, the whole series, he's being most of the time spoken down to by a bloke who's 20,
Yeah.
who knows nothing outside of farming, but within farming is a fucking
Yeah.
genius and knows.
It knows everything. And
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely brilliant. But have you seen the right at the very end? Did you catch him taking the piss out of Labour's?
Oh, and the Rachel Reeves pop
Yeah.
up. Yeah, I did catch that. Yeah. No, look, I think I've said to a lot of people, even if you don't like Clarkson, you will really like Clarkson's Farm.
He's also like the message in general in terms of like the amount. I don't feel like before anyone has like discussed farming.
No,
But-
totally. And I would say it's completely changed my opinion on what Labour did in regards to the farmers completely.
You know, and even after sort of Brexit and the fact that, you know, the common theme through the seasons have been these subsidies are gone, but we don't know what we're meant to be planting.
Yeah.
Like, and it just shows, you know, and I went to a county fair because there's one over at nearby us. And even they were talking about it like lamb. They were talking about lamb and saying it's cheaper at the moment to like port it in from New Zealand than it is to buy British lamb in Britain, which is just
because of the cost
balmy.
of them farming
Yeah.
the lamb here.
Exactly.
And then you see it throughout the whole series, like they're working on, I mean, he's fine and he says, I'm fine, I've got the money, I can survive this. But for the average farmer, like, unless they've got millions in the bank, which a lot of them don't,
Yeah.
you're fucked. You can't be a farmer.
No, completely agree.
And like, the one thing I would say, I don't want to be a farmer, but having what you do watch it and you're like, I can understand why they do it, because there must be like a huge sense of like accomplishment and satisfaction to like, I don't know, just do all that stuff to raise animals, to grow crops when it goes well.
Yeah. and also you are largely like your own boss. Like it's very
Oh,
much,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's like you are doing it because well, for a lot of them, it's just like what they were brought up doing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, not many people from when we went to school went, I'm going to go off and be a farmer, like left.
Well, I guess it wouldn't make sense to, would it?
No, but
Because it is something that if
It's a
you're from the
lifestyle.
outside, you do it the way Clarkson's done it. You have a lot of money, you go buy a farm, you let someone else run it for you, and you
Yeah, but
just enjoy the way it looks.
yeah, exactly. No, it's a really good show. Well worth a watch. And
Yeah, and like the one thing I would say is before watching it, I didn't think he was sincere about giving a shit about farming.
yeah.
But when you watch it, you can't say that he doesn't. Do you know what I mean?
It's when you watch like the season ends and like how happy, like how much he enjoys it, and like not to go too much into the spoilers, but he says like he says that doing the harvesting is like his favorite time of the year
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
show, and like you can see how upset he gets
Yeah.
about
No,
something
look,
that happens.
if you don't want to hear this, people, skip forward a few minutes. Caleb harvests without him.
Yeah,
Because
and
basically he's like, it's going to be easier if Jeremy's not here.
And Jeremy, before he goes, is literally like, I want to know when you're doing it. And then I think Caleb basically puts up a picture on Instagram of him harvesting, and he's like,
he's fuming.
He's fuming. He comes flying down on his tractor.
What did you think of the two women that were helping set up the pub? Because I've seen a lot online criticism towards them. Because they just walked out, like I think a day or two after it opened. Like they opened a pub restaurant.
It did feel, I think it's a double-edged sword in terms of like they're professionals, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what they do, is be professionals. So they're doing advice, and you could just see consistently that they were like, well, if you want to do this properly, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And Clarkson was learning in that way. But like, at the end of the day, he was trying to sign checks, and he was trying to do something way too fast. You could just see from everything. He was trying to do it in like days.
He did it with the shop as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like he opened it far too quickly before he had stuff to sell.
He ran before he could walk, and then sort of get it up, and then we'll deal with the problems when we get there.
Yeah.
And I just think their reputation, they just went, it's obviously was a long, hard day, even though it only lasted like 3 hours on the first day or something. But like, I sort of get it. And like, I think the way they had that confrontation, or like the way he was in that confrontation when they were like the night before, that they were like raising the concerns about this isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
And he was quite rude. And I get why he was tired and whatever else. But like,
because I think the particular moment they're getting criticised for, I think it was the day after they opened, they've asked to see him upstairs.
Yeah.
And they're sat there having a conversation, and they're like, you need to go and talk to the back, to the chef and all of that. And he's like, I've just done that. And they're like, no, go back. And like they're getting they're basically saying that it came across very unprofessional, that, you know, he's trying to deal with all these things, and they're basically like, you're not doing a good enough job. And he's like, I've got all of this to do.
Yeah, but you don't. I think the problem is you don't see how it hits the editing room floor. Like you don't. No,
totally.
Right,
totally.
The conversation is quite cut. There's a lot of edits and stuff in it, so you don't know how that conversation goes across. And then on top of that, like you don't know what other conversations they've had.
No, that's very fair.
So you don't know if they were warning about things.
I got to be honest. When I watched it, what I thought of it was everyone's going through a lot of stress right now. It's a high tension conversation, and Jeremy's famous for not being good in high tension situations, considering why he left the BBC.
And then on top of that, he's trying to set up a pub in like 4 weeks or something stupid. It works out at.
And then he finds out he's miscalculated and it's a week earlier.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he's trying to do the harvest as well. And I know he was like, I want to do the harvest, but he could have quite easily been like, Caleb, stay with the farm. I'm going to deal with the pub. But he was trying to do both. Yeah. And it's like, you're not making a bad situation.
No, like personally, like you could maybe argue leaving like in the middle of setting it up isn't great, but I didn't walk away from it going, oh, they're horrible women. I was just like, they've had enough.
I think at the time I was like, when I first watched it, I was a bit like, oh, I feel like they could have quite easily been like, we want a bit of fame. I saw some stuff online that was like, they thought he was a walking checkbook. They thought this, that, and the other. And I sort of get it. But you know, they're professionals at the end of the day, and like, you know, for them it's probably embarrassing to see like a pub open up and run out of water in like 3 hours.
And food.
And have to close over like 2 days. You know, they obviously weren't prepared. You can see everyone's really stressed, and they lost a lot of staff.
Or like in an ideal world, what he should have done was, long before he wanted to do it, was get them in there and be like, make a list of absolutely everything that needs doing. And we don't open until everything on that list is checked off.
Or he sits down and just like pushes it back. And it's one of those, like, push it back by an amount of time so that you can actually get it properly set up and deal with some of the problems. And
I think the problem is when you've got that amount of money, because I've seen varying figures on like how much he's made from doing it. Because when I first watched it, I was like, how's he? I know he's rich. Like, I knew he was rich. I was like, how's he funding this? Because it was like $250,000 here, 50, like, and it was like, that's a lot of money. And he's apparently getting paid somewhere between 70 and 200 million for doing it. So I was like, oh, okay, he's fine.
Yeah.
And then the other positives, Caleb's now made shitloads of money from it. The other girl that was on it, Harriet, she's apparently been able to buy her own first home because of being on it.
Yeah.
So he's like looked after a lot of people
Yeah.
while doing it. And I've heard stuff like I think he might have paid for medical bills for Gerald when he had cancer. Spoiler alert. But yeah, like I waited maybe like a couple of months before this season came out before I started watching it. So I've literally watched it all in quite a short period of time.
Me and my wife both sat down and watched it, and then for the last couple of seasons, when we know the new one's coming out, we've gone and watched all the old episodes so that we finish it just as you start.
I rewatched the whole lot just before this series came out because I'll be honest, I got completely addicted to it.
It's so good, it's so funny,
and it made me go back and watch some of the old Top Gear specials because I hadn't watched them for ages because I'd just gone off of him. I think it was after the Meghan Markle thing where he's like she should be walked naked in the streets, and
the problem is he comes out with such stupid stuff. I feel like some of it is like his bravado and he says stupid.
I think
crap.
he's a product of his time, isn't he? He's very old fashioned.
But I think
he's
when you see
immovable as well.
But I also think he's the sort of person that, like, if you put a camera in front of him, like, he's got a sense of bravado. But I think he spends so much time, like, it's not Clarkson Farm is like over the course of a year, and he spends so much of that time in front of the camera doing bits for the farming and whatever else. Like, I just don't. I think that's a little bit more of his natural personality. You can see the way he interacts with some of the other people that it's more consistent, and I just think that you get a bit more of what he's about and like something you can see he cares a lot about. You know, and I think it's really good. You know, everyone deserves sort of redemptions and stuff. You know, and that opportunity to sort of
like I would if he did something because apparently that's it now, at least for the time being.
He's meant to do another season.
Is he?
Yeah,
I heard that was it.
I think they've said season 5.
Okay. Well, I'll watch as many seasons as they do.
So good. I think that's the other thing as well. You've got to take into account.
He's also old as well.
Yeah,
and you see it in the last series, don't you? Because he's just, as you said, he's doing far too much. He should have just said to Caleb, until the pub's up and running and settled, the farm's yours. Do you know what I mean?
And even if like he's got the funds, he could have gone, Harriet, can you come pull some extra shifts for us and like help us out? Because she comes back a couple of times in the season.
Yeah,
so it's like, can you just help out whilst I deal with the pub as my priority? Because like it's so much. It's not just the pub. It's the butchers. It's the shop. It's everything that he's ever wanted.
Oh yeah, because on the same site they have this giant tent from the Grand Tour that's got the butchers in it.
Still got the Grand Tour logo
off license in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, one of my favourite moments from that season is when Caleb comes back from his tour and meets Harriet, and he's like, go on, be nice to her. And he does for the first field, he's able to hold it together, and then it just starts going to shit from there.
I do think on certain parts it's scripted. Like, I think clearly
I think Gerald is quite... I think that's hammed up.
It definitely is.
Because when you listen... I've listened back to some of his waffling, and it's nonsensical. He's not actually speaking in sentences a lot of the time. Like, they'll be talking about a wall when he starts talking about gerbils. And it's like, I think a lot of that is hammed up.
I think so, but I think that's fine. Like, I think that's, you know, it brings some of the fun to it.
I think the interaction between him and Caleb when he meets Harriet and he's been a bit of a dick afterwards, he pulls him to one side and is like, you're suffering from what a lot of people suffer from when they've been on a tour and everyone's doing everything for them. He's like, you've got cunt fatigue. Like, you've got so used. He's like, you just need to chill the hell out and pull yourself together.
I felt him because he was sort of like looking at the floor, kicking the dirt, being a bit like an angsty teenager. I feel like that was hammed up a little bit in terms of
I thought that was all genuine.
I thought I didn't think it was the same as the
I might have to go back and rewatch it because
I don't see him seeing another. He does get funny in the previous season with the other guy putting in that weird
he's 20 though. He's a young guy. It's not out of the realms
He's still
of
a farmer. I don't know. It's one of those.
No, but if you think the way I contextualized it in my head was he'd been working on the farm for like 9 years. He sees it as his farm almost, doesn't he? Like they're his fit. Like when that guy, is it Andy, the ex-pop star, when they're doing the regenerative farming, he's not happy about that because he's like, that's my field.
Yeah.
What's he doing ploughing my field?
Whatever happened to that?
You never hear about it again.
Like, genuinely, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, it's like an episode on its own about that.
Yeah.
And it seems this really good thing. And then I think they make money off of it. And then he's never seen again. You never hear about how good the profits are. So
they never mention it happening again.
Ever again.
So I think they were just like, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Or it ran out of funding.
Maybe.
Because they said they buy at a preset, like, value. Or
yeah,
whatever.
and they pay above market rate for it as well.
It might just run out of budget.
Because I've listened to stuff about farming since, and they're like, we've got maybe 100 harvests of topsoil left in this, like, around the world, and they were like, after that we can't grow food.
Yeah,
and they're not sure on the exact number either.
It'll be all out of a petri dish by then.
Would you eat petri dish meat?
You might not have a choice.
I think that would be the point where I'd be like, maybe I'll go vegan.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you go vegan. If they can't grow anything, then what are you eating?
Oh, fuck.
Like,
well, surely they can import it from somewhere.
They've got 100 years round the world.
No. We won't be here in 100 years.
So we haven't got to eat the petri dish food. Just tell the future, eat the slop, and be done with it. It's not our problem.
That's why I don't want children.
Yeah.
Yeah. But fun times. I wasn't expecting to talk about it. I didn't know whether you'd be into Clarkson's Farm. I nearly actually asked you about it beforehand.
Absolutely love it. It's like my favourite show.
But look, if they're doing another season, I will absolutely watch it.
Not only will I watch it, I will go back watch the 4 seasons of it, and then
I'm a big rewatcher of stuff though.
Yeah.
Like,
if it's good.
I find it very difficult now to watch something new because it's almost like I've been brokenhearted too many times. Like, I've been cheated on too many times.
I think if something's good, I'll rewatch it. I won't just rewatch for the sake of rewatching it.
No. It's only something I like.
Stuff.
Like, I'll rewatch Sons of Anarchy. I'll rewatch Suits. I love Suits. Have you ever watched that?
I watched bits of it.
It's really good. You gotta watch it.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time watching through like American Dad.
I've never. It's just not my. Same as Family Guy. It's just not.
Yeah, we quite like both of them. It's that sort of.
It's just not my. Like some of the bits. Like I love the Zinedine Zidane. Yeah. It hurts more than getting a birthday telegram from Zinedine Zidane. Bon anniversaire. Just fucking squares an old lady. Speaking of drama. Yeah. Elon and Donald Trump.
Oh boy.
What do you think?
That has to be like,
it's proper playground stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, when you were like a teenager and you first started like having girlfriends and stuff, you'd get one and it would last like a week. Right?
I was famous for it.
Really early. And then the meltdown from it would then go on for like a month.
Yeah.
It would start off fine and then you'd be like, I can't see her, and then you just start arguing. It's that, isn't it? It's just that all over.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I just love the lovers' tiff that they're happening. Like,
it's the fact he was like, we've fallen out. He's a pedo.
Yeah. but then you work it back, and you're like, so you knew he was a pedo,
and you were completely fine,
and you were completely complicit, and you're like, yeah, this is the guy. He's the guy. He's number one. Whatever else.
Well, while the stock price is high,
and then it started burning.
Yeah. And now he's had to do a tweet where he's like, I regret some of the things I said. I went too far, and then it stabilised the stock a little bit.
I personally loved the idea that Elon Musk is single-handedly showing us the idea that billionaires don't work harder. Like, they don't do anything different. They're just like out here just chilling out, doing whatever they want to do.
I used to think he was more of a genius than he actually is.
He's a moron.
He's just, the way in which he's clever is the fact he's managed to leverage like power within government to just, or influence in government rather, to like get shitloads of subsidies and just use that as the way he's built his wealth.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise he was a Nepo baby.
Yeah, he's a multi-millionaire
from Blood Diamonds as
South
well.
African Blood Diamonds or something like that.
Which
like,
isn't ideal.
But it's this idea people walk around and be like, well, Elon made himself from nothing. He's like, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Like,
no.
he had millions.
I didn't think he'd made himself from nothing, but I thought he was smarter than he is.
But didn't he buy his way into PayPal? Like, isn't that how it started? He bought himself into PayPal.
Yeah, that was his big like first move in business, and then that didn't end well.
And then
I thought he founded Tesla. That was the one thing I did think he'd done.
He bought into Tesla,
and then pushed them out.
Then he gets ousted or something on one of them. Is it PayPal? He gets
ousted?
PayPal.
He got chucked out of.
And it's just like I think the only reason that Tesla is still up and running is because he can get carbon credits.
Yeah.
It's never been profitable. The fact that it's the stock on it is treated as a tech, not as a car company because his stocks are worth more than like a Toyota and like
Probably all of them put
all
together.
of them put together. He's like, yeah, it's worth more. You know, and the fact,
And that's the majority of his wealth is Tesla, isn't it?
and the fact that the bloody idiot went out and went for a meme because he was trying to do a scam there, where he went out and bought Twitter at £54.20 for 4.20 on the share price.
Wasn't it 40 billion or something like that he spent?
Yeah, well, because he can't cash out his stocks, but if he tries to make a purchase...
Oh, you told me about this before. He paused the... I didn't know they did that. So, like, even rich people don't have to buy stuff the same way we do.
No, so he can use his Tesla stock, so then he has to liquidate the stock, but it has to pause the price, or else because you'd start
the stock will
it,
plummet, wouldn't it?
Plummet, it wouldn't be worth it. So they have to pause it. So that was the point that he was like, oh, there's a certain percentage of bots that are in the thing, because he was like, if I can prove that their material says that there's an X amount of bots, it was like 5%, and he said it was more like 20. He could then get the agreement
price down.
He could get the agreement cancelled, but he's already sold his shares, so he's got a load of
cash.
cash.
And then the court forced him to buy it, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm still on Twitter. I'm forever now having to like not interested in this because it's feeding me shit all the time that I don't like.
Have you seen what he's done to his AI?
No. I have used Grok since. I have used it. I used it to make a thumbnail for one of our episodes.
Oh my god! So there was a period, a couple of weeks, really recent, like a couple of weeks ago, in which like if you ask Grok like a random question, it would then embed white genocide into the answer. So it'd be like, Katy Perry's gone to the moon. Has Katy Perry gone to the moon? And Grok would reply, "It is."
Yeah, with Nazis.
No, it was like. It would turn around and have a response like, "Oh, Katy Perry hasn't actually gone to the moon. She's gone to like outer orbit, so she's technically been to space. But you know, but there's also conflicts in terms of some people are claiming that like white genocide is happening and we are being replaced. So then someone asked Grok, why do you keep like saying about white genocide, like just out of nowhere, unprompted,
out of context?"
And it went, "Oh, basically, my creators have asked me to include it and put it as a data point that it is happening, and therefore that has caused my code to then bring it up at any stage. If you ask me a question, it will ask about white genocide." And then someone was querying it the other day, and they said, "Yeah, it admitted that its creators was trying to push it to not be factual and go towards the right, like have a right leaning on the answers it was presenting."
Well, to be fair, like there was loads. I started using it occasionally, like if I was trying to look something up, because it would then source loads of stuff for me rather than me having to do it. And then I asked it a question about like, why are we leaning towards right-wing politics? And it like slammed on Elon in the answer. So maybe that's why they've been fucking with it, is because he didn't like the fact his own creation was...
But it also...
I mean, and he probably didn't even create it, did he?
No, he didn't. Cause
someone else did it for him.
Yeah, and then he went and sold it. He went and sold Twitter to himself so that he could get the...
What?
Have you not? So...
I didn't know he sold it to...
Yeah, so he... So
oh, what?
Grok,
So did Tesla own...
No,
Grok itself.
So Grok AI is owned by a company called XAI.
Right.
So that's the sub.
Everything he owns is X, isn't it?
Yeah. So then so Elon Musk, who purchased Twitter, has then sold Twitter, because I refuse to call it...
Lean a bit closer to the mic, actually.
I refuse to call it... it's falling over, there we go. I refuse to call it the X, because that's stupid. He then...
You know, I scoot your chair.
I could just get my chair. My leg's in the wrong way.
It's all right, we're keeping this in.
That's going to be a fat edit for you. Come on.
So, mate, do you think I do actual editing?
No, but, you know, you might start. So he's got Twitter. He then sold Twitter from Elon owning it into XAI, which owns Grok, now owns Twitter.
Right.
And then he managed to sell that at a massive tax loss, or at a loss, so then he can claim offset it as a cost.
Yeah, look, rich people can do all manner of shit, can't they?
Yeah. But I think it just highlights really, because like the more and more of these companies are releasing these sort of AI bots that are like kicking around. But the problem is they're only as good as the people that code them. So if someone codes them with the idea of having some sort of biasy built into them, then it will have them, and they're not infallible. Like the idea of using them as like they're going to replace people, they shouldn't. But companies,
will they though?
The problem is The problem is that what eventually they will do, instead of having to hire, like, it's the same way that happens with like checkouts, right? And the self-service tills, right?
Yeah.
You get rid of 5 checkouts, you then put in a swath of self-service tills, and then you only need 1 person to man that space.
Yep.
So then 4 people have then been made redundant because they're not going to keep them. And even though there is other work for them to do, they're going to be like, well, we don't need them. So they get rid of them, right? And that will be the same way that it'll work with AI. You'll just have, instead of having a team of 10 people, they'll get rid of half the team.
And 1 person to monitor it, or whoever's left to monitor it.
A couple of people to make sure it doesn't take over the world and become Skynet.
Is that like every time we end up talking about AI, but is that actually possible? Like the AI to take over?
We don't know.
No, fair enough. Because it's not. I've heard some theories that there's already a sentient AI out there, and because there was a whistleblower, I can never remember his name. I think he worked for Google, and they fired him, and he claims that the AI he was working on was sentient.
I'm waiting for him to come out that he's been abducted by aliens too. Like the problem is you
UFOs are real though. We don't know they're aliens,
true,
but they're real.
The problem is you won't know, and then if one does like turn up, they're probably going to read the internet, and it will be like, I'm now right wing, and all the people are the problem, and then they'll just like take over the nuclear codes, right? Like technically, it depends if one gets sentience, and if that's how, you know, if we start talking about philosophy of sentience, like, is it possible? If it is possible, then yeah, why not eventually? But
I reckon we're a way off of it though.
Probably, but.
One of the questions I actually had for you, because it was going to be under, I went back and you sent me a video a while ago about Stuxnet.
Yeah.
And that was fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
But one of my questions was like, how does AI affect cybersecurity? Like, does it make your job more difficult? Will it eventually replace you?
No, it's an arms race, right? So we create tools that can generate. So like, I use AI in my daily job.
Okay.
And I write code, like scripts and codes, so I can do my job more efficiently. But in theory, you could generate an AI that takes like a virus or a payload, and then it can rewrite it so it can dodge. And if you can inbuild one that uses your CPU inside the computer to have its own AI that can then run the code, in theory, it could change itself to then keep its dodging it from the antivirus that's then trying to stop.
And how do you fight that?
Well, then you would it's an arms race. So you would then
got to have a better AI than
have
them,
an AI that's built into your antivirus that can then adapt to match up. So it's just an arms race.
We just shouldn't be doing it, should we?
But it's like everything. You know, the cyber field is no different. The cyber field is no different to any other war zone, right? It's no different in terms of like, man with stick gets bigger stick.
It sort of is, because we can't see it, and we don't know unless like and it's like. There was that big hack recently, wasn't there? Like,
loads.
But the one that affected, was it M&S and other stores?
Yeah, M&S has been
What
done.
was that?
So it looks like they got attacked.
Do you handle that? Because I don't know who you work for. So I don't know, like...
And you will never know.
No. You could work for fucking MI5 for all I know. Do you know what I mean?
And if I did, I wouldn't be able to confirm it or deny it.
He fucking does. He fucking does.
I definitely don't. No. So on the M&S one... They announce enough. You're never going to truly know.
Exactly what happened.
But because then we have vendors who then have other customers.
So I'm guessing you work for a company that is contracted by all these other. No.
So I work for a company.
Yeah.
And I look after my own company. So what they do.
Right.
They operate.
Okay.
I work for my company, and they make profits. And I protect them from getting compromised.
Right.
In the same way, if I worked for M&S, like I effectively
right.
work for M&S,
okay.
Right?
For some reason, I thought you worked for a company that was like contracted by other companies to look after them.
So I work after our company, but then we'll buy products in. So we'll buy like antivirus, we'll buy like other items, and then of course the companies that we're buying, we have like monthly or quarterly calls where we just check up and make sure everything's all right, and if there's any problems, you know, anything we need to know about. But they will have other customers who may or may not get compromised at different points.
Right. Okay.
So if something hits the news, and a lot of these might be involved in terms of, these companies don't only just sell products, they do like recovery services. So when something does get compromised, they'll go in and help clean it up basically, and be paid to do that. So they'll get inside sort of knowledge of what's going on. And of course, there's massive like,
and because you've got the same product, you can then not have the same issues because you can...
yeah, you learn that, and they'll do like educational rounds in terms of they'll say, well, we don't know what caused it, but we recommend that you check on these things. Right?
Would it not just be simpler for them to say, look, this is the vulnerability that was found, fix, like, here's the fix?
Because most of the time it's not a vulnerability, it is the most dangerous part of like my job isn't necessarily anything that we configure, it's the people that work in the company are the most dangerous part, because the one that's more likely to let them through what they're going to do, are they going to...
So is it human error or...
Yeah.
Or so malfeasance?
Yeah, so it can be malicious in terms of like an unhappy employee who's like...
leaves a back door open, so to speak.
Or even just goes like, you're going to get fired, and someone leaves them access and they just start deleting stuff, or they get like a virus and they just start running it, and then
can't they be prosecuted for doing stuff?
Yeah, of course they can. But if they burn the house down, right? Like, you've got to have the stuff in place to make sure you know it was definitely them and not through somewhere else. But then you also get stuff where it's like, Susan from accounts who, didn't see a computer until bloody 2000 or something, right? And everything's been pen and paper. Now sits in front of a computer all day opening emails, and one says that she's won £1 million, accidentally clicks it.
How do people not like... Everyone should know this by now, shouldn't they? Like, you don't open emails you don't know.
So there's...
Because that was that other one you sent me. Was it the Ukraine one?
Yeah.
What was it called?
I think that wasn't... I can't remember off the top of my
head. But that was literally like... someone opened something they shouldn't have, and...
Yeah. So there's two... We're like jumping so fast.
No, I know.
It's like... I get it. So there's two ways of thinking it. When someone's writing up a spam email, right? If you're doing it and you want to compromise, there's two ways you want to do it. Either you want to be really sophisticated and keyed in, so you are aiming for certain targets, right? And that's known as spear phishing. You're aiming for like CEOs. You want to make it look as realistic as possible, because you want to hit the top dog, because then you get in and you get everything. You get the keys to the kingdom. Or you make it as generic as possible. It's got all the grammatical errors in the world in it, because you don't want the ones who know it's phishing. You don't want to deal with them, because the second they click on it and they go type in your password, they're going to go, well, this is obviously a problem, right? Yeah. So you make it as dumb as possible, because the people that are left over who do click it won't care anymore.
And they'll put whatever you want.
And they're the ones you want. So that's more of a blanket approach where you just hit everyone with it.
I find it hard to believe people are that stupid, though.
I don't even think it's stupid. It's just like, what?
Or ignorant or uninformed.
My 90-year-old nan would get caught by it. My dad would get caught by it, if I'm completely honest. And like...
But then, like my mum will get a text from, and I'll be like, but what?
Yeah.
What are you worried about? Like,
I've lost my phone. This is your...
She got that. Yeah. She got that from what she thought was me saying, Mum, I've lost my phone. I need 300.
It's because it's all based around like social engineering, right? You're pulling at the heartstrings at someone who's not sure, doesn't know, whatever else, and they're just trying to seize on opportunity. There was a TV show, actually. I can't remember what channel. I want to say like Channel 4 or something, where they had like this team they were like doing counter hacking, and they were like intercepting hacks live on TV, or not live, but on this recorded show.
Yeah.
And then they were like, as the person's trying to do it, they were trying to ring up, they would find out who the person they're talking to is, and were like trying to get them to hang up the phone and try and talk to them about it and stop some of these things from happening. And it's just like glorified call centers, a lot of them. And it was absolutely heartbreaking, because like you hear like these like really old people, and like people call up and say, oh, this is Microsoft calling, you've got a virus on your computer, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like just trying to follow orders. And it's like, it just reminds you of like your grandparents are saying, and it's heartbreaking.
Totally. There was a lady who lives across the road, and I think she got done for like 20 grand from some scam.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
No,
like,
that's it. The money's gone. The money's just gone.
But like, as a general rule on those, like if someone randomly calls you up out of the blue and says, well, I am from Microsoft,
hang up the phone.
Just hang up the phone. If someone calls you up and says, this is your bank calling you, hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Not only do you hang up the phone, you want to leave it. Go make yourself a cup of tea. So don't hang up the phone. Like if it's a landline, don't hang up the phone and then call straight away. Because sometimes what can happen is they can stay on the end of the line. Even though you've put the phone down, it will hang on the other end of the line, and then it will call straight back through to them when you dial a number. Because that's been known. So you need to...
What? Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
There's like... So you put the phone down, go make yourself a cup of tea, right? Chill out, take 5, have a cup of tea. Then you then you call up your bank on a number that you know, like get it on the internet, go get the number.
Oh, I
up,
always do that. Yeah.
Call up the number and then speak to the people at the bank and then report it to the bank. And that's what you need to do. If you call straight away, sometimes, like I said, on landlines, they can hang on the end of the...
On a landline, though?
Mainly on a landline. I haven't heard it. I would, just a rule, just be like...
Just give it 5 minutes before you do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, whenever I get a scam call, I never worry about it. Like, I'm not...
I used to do, because a lot of them run under the system of, like, it's basically like this computer that's just running calls. It's just dialing the next number in the line. But it doesn't actually... put you through to anyone. It won't respond until you say hello. Until it hears something on the other end of the line, it won't put you through to a person. But the second it does it, there's basically a call center full of people. When it goes hello, they get it and they start the script. So there's one thing you can do.
I get a lot from O2.
Yeah, where you just like don't speak. And if it just sits there for ages with no one going on because it's waiting to see if someone answers, you can just put the phone down. My phone actually has got an AI assistant on it. So I can hit a button on it, and this is one of the good uses of AI, and it will then do like a text to speech. So it will do like, hi, I'm using an AI convert assistant. Please, can you tell me what your call is? And then when they speak, it will then put in text on my phone what they're calling for. The amount of spam numbers where it does that and they just put the phone down, just gets rid of them.
Because now I've noticed on my phone, it says under the number now, suspected spam, so I don't even answer most of the time.
Yeah, mine does that, and then I just use the AI thing, and it just...
But it has your local area code in the number as well.
Yeah, because the computers can just, like, pump you out of that area and make it look like it.
Yeah, fair enough. So maybe, and if you're old and vulnerable and on your own...
It's real easy. The only thing you can collectively do... and it's about education. It's education. So talk to, if you're like tech savvy, if you're into your computers, even if you're just like of the age that we are and younger, talk to family members. Be like, if it's anything to do with, I haven't got any money, like if it's the bank calling you, if it's anyone saying, oh, do you want to buy crypto, anything like this, talk to me, give me a ring, put the phone down, talk to me. You know what I mean? And just be that thing so that they don't listen to them. They sort of have a preset thing. I know for my dad, because I had a thing where I was like, anyone calls you up, talking about crypto, don't get into it. Like, it's not a scam collectively, but...
I think crypto is a scam myself.
It's not. Like, it's not, but...
It's being used as...
Yeah, it's a vehicle for a lot of crime, and there's no
drug
regulation,
money
and blah, 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 blah.
It was basically like, anyone I spoke to about crypto, I was like, well, explain it to me. How does it work? And no one could ever properly go, like, give me a good explanation of why it has value.
It's just money.
It's the same as the stock market, but different in the sense of, like, at least in the stock market, if you have shares in Tesla would be a bad example for the reasons we've explained, but Apple, for example, they have assets. There is some level of intrinsic value to that share in terms of it's part of this company, that company's worth this. Whereas with crypto, it's a trust-based system, and it's basically based off of how much it's being bought. And
it's basically a currency, right? Like it effectively is a currency.
It's a non-fiat currency, I believe.
But it's just treated the same. You know, why is a pound worth a pound, right?
Yeah,
in theory. But the difference is you have to use your pounds to buy into crypto, so it's sort of treated a bit more like a stock. But like effectively, and I can give you crypto, you know, and you can give me a pizza.
But it also seems far too volatile to be actually used as a currency.
Yeah, and then it's
like there's that poor fucker when Bitcoin was first coming out that bought a Domino's pizza or something with crypto, and that crypto that he used would now be worth like shitloads of money.
There's a better one where there's a guy who's got like hundreds of them.
Didn't he lose the computer or something, or the password?
He put the hard drive in the bin, and he got like it had, and this was going back, and it's gone up way. No, but this is back in like 2019, 15, somewhere around there. Yeah, and it was like 140 million pounds worth of crypto on it. Which
because he's got hunting parties, hasn't he? He pays people to like sift through this dump trying to find it.
I think that was when Bitcoin was worth 30 grand a coin, and it's now worth like 80, I believe. It's like, so if that's 140 at 30, it's got to nearly triple by then. You're talking nearly 500 million. So no wonder he's got hard hunting parties, because if he gets 500 million, he's like...
Because, I mean, there should be a way. I mean, I get why it's that way, but, like, if you're in that situation, there should be a recovery system, shouldn't there, for him to get his password?
No, because
that's mental, isn't it?
It's encryption and keys. That's how you keep it secure. Like the big...
No, look, I get it, but at the same time, if you're that guy, you'd feel differently.
But then I think when he was doing it, like, I think he was a really, really early adopter. That's how he got so many.
Well,
and like he
be.
probably was like, oh, whatever, and then threw the computer away. And then like 5 years later, someone said, oh, that Bitcoin is like really thing, and he's like searching his house, like, please, where is it? Where is it?
Yeah,
it just
that's insane.
But I had a big conversation going back with my parents about, if it's anything to do with Bitcoin, blah, 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 don't get involved.
Are you invested in crypto?
I'm not.
Okay. Sorry, your parents.
And my dad actually turned to me, went to a birthday party the other day, and he turned around and he said, yeah, the guy who was there, whose birthday it was, he lost 20 grand because he got put in a crypto scam.
Yeah.
And I was like, and this is why I tell you, don't get involved, don't get done.
No, I think, like, if you're going to invest in something, you need to do it as directly as possible, and not into some scheme or some random company. You need to, like, know, like, do it on one of the trading platforms or something like that, if that's what you want to do. And even then, it's like everything, you've got to be willing to lose that money.
Well, yeah, look at FTX, you know, biggest platform, worth billions of pounds.
Yeah, it turns out it was basically a Ponzi scheme, wasn't it?
Literally, like, he was, what was it? He had FTX, and then his girl, Sam Bankman-Fried, I think his name was.
Yeah.
And then his girlfriend, which they look like they are the nerdiest.
And weren't they
couple
having
ever.
like coke-fueled sex parties in the Bahamas or something?
Yeah, and he was like, he basically sat around all day playing League of Legends. And he wasn't very good. I think he was like silver tier or something, so he wasn't even good. But they had an open back door where he had an investment fund. There was an investment company running, which was run by his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And basically they had a direct access into the accounts. So they were siphoning it off. And I think their account sheets was just like an Google Sheets document for a multi-billion-pound company.
Mental, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, that just tells you, doesn't it, that none of the systems in place are actually fit for purpose, or...
But it's no regulations, and like at the end of the day, lawmakers take so long, and everything's changing so quickly. If we talk about, you know, the year 2000, like, maybe people had a computer at home, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't 100% you had a computer at home.
Because how old would we have been? I would have been 9.
I was 8.
I'd have been 9. I don't know if we had a computer then. So yeah, probably not.
I think we did, but we didn't have it long. But yeah, year 2000 is that. 25 years later, and like there must be like 15 computers around us just here, let alone like...
Is it true? Because I feel like you'd know the answer to this question. I always see this stat of like the phone in my hand is more powerful than the computer that sent a rocket to the moon.
Tenfold. I think tenfold. It's
and that's in such a short space of time, isn't it? Like, even if you look at our lives, like, my first television was a brown box on wheels with dials, and now like a TV's as thin as my hand. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so there's a law, and I can't remember the name of it. It's going to really annoy me now. But the law, the way it works is every 4 years, a computer twice as powerful will cost half as much. So when you bought that Mac, if it was brand new that day, in like 4 years' time or something, one that is twice as powerful as that would cost you half as much as what that cost you.
Does that? I don't know if that's true though. Is it, like, because Macs are expensive?
No, but not Macs inherently, but the idea of that's how computers were moving forward. I think you know, and then they're talking about quantum processors nowadays, and like I
don't know what that means. Do you know what I mean? Quantum computing. I've heard people talk about it. What, like, if you feel free.
Do you know what quantum mechanics is?
I've heard of it.
So quantum mechanics, the idea is that in the universe, particles can act as both a wave and as like individual dots. So when they're unobserved, they can be in two places at the same time.
Yeah.
This is a really quick version. So the idea of quantum computing is that binary is written as 1 and 0s, right? And it has to be one of those. Yeah. But if a computer can calculate where it could be both 1 and 0 simultaneously, until the point it's observed, and then it bounces into being 1 or 0. The idea is it can compute far greater than it could do multiple computing it simultaneously because it's doing both variables at the same time.
Right.
That's the general gist.
How far off are we of this?
They've been talking
What
about
would this do, though? Like, what would that change?
Well, from a security point of view, the day that becomes usable, like mainstream, the day that it's actually working properly, every single form of encryption currently becomes redundant.
Because this could just bypass
something. No, it's not. They could bypass it. Something that currently could take you years, it could do in like minutes.
Right.
So if something takes
because
like
the level of computing power is such that
it can just run through the variables so fast that it would instantaneously basically crack it. It's something that could take 100 years to crack currently.
Right. What sort of like application does that have in the real? Like, what would that be used for? That sort of computing power.
Well,
like, what would it transform?
If you're doing modelling for like weather, for example,
right,
weather environments, and you do simulations of sort of environments,
it would do it.
It could crunch at high numbers. So you'd be able to do more reps of that. From a criminal perspective, they can just hack into basically any bank account simultaneously because they could just override every encryption.
So why are we doing this or trying to do this?
Man pushes the envelope forward ever more to get ever faster, so your Netflix can stream at
that is like the philosophical question, isn't it? Of like, should we be like just because we can?
You know, like, we made we now have the power to literally vaporize ourselves off the planet and make the complete planet completely uninhabitable for everyone
very easily.
And we did it. Should we?
Yeah.
But that's philosophy, and I don't really do much philosophy.
Oh no, I'm fascinated by that because, like, for example, like we might as well jump into this. Like, it looks like America could be going to war with Iran as of today, as of time of record. Like, literally a couple of hours before we started recording, I saw a video that was like, because whenever anything's going on with America, I tend to watch Hassan Piker because he's just incredibly intelligent and well informed. And
you've name dropped that, and you're going to get so much hate now just from nature, just because people don't like him.
He's quite hated, isn't he?
Yeah.
But like, I don't think I've ever really listened to anything he said where I've been like, I don't think that's correct, or like, I might think differently about it. But like, anyway, so like with Iran, they want to have nukes.
Yeah.
The Americans don't want them to have nukes, and Israel doesn't want them to have nukes. I sort of think like, I don't want anyone to have nukes, including us, America, anyone. But who the fuck is America to say, well, this country can't have them? That's the issue I have with it. Like, if you're going to have it, you can't say someone else can't have it.
Well, they're the global superpower, but other than that,
sort of for now.
But they are.
Yeah.
You know, and they're
like, we lease nukes from them.
Yeah, and they are the most sort of military-driven. You know, they're most of their economy is based off
war industrial complex,
military complex. But yeah, they just seem to want to fight everyone at the moment. Like, they're even like looking like they're going to fight themselves at the moment.
Well, yeah, with the LA riots, and that's all been mental.
It's spread now.
Has it?
So as much as you'd be like, oh, LA, like, you know, that's quite blue. LA.
Yeah.
It started in Texas today.
Really?
Austin, Texas has had
Is it still
protests
over immigration? And
ICE. And it's starting to pop up in like other states and like cities and stuff around America. Like,
I find it mental personally. Like, most people are happy to accept the benefits of immigrant and migrant labour until the moment they're not. As long as they're white, basically.
I have a bit of a theory around like why now, in terms of like, because
why Trump's doing this now.
Yeah, right now. So, and I think literally, I think he's trying to, because politics is notorious for, they want something really good in the news, and then they'll release a load of bad stuff because no one pays attention. Like, if in England,
misdirection, like a magic trick almost.
If England won the World Cup, and then Labour turned around and said, "Oh, we're cutting this, that, and the other," no one's going to pay. It wouldn't even hit the top news because everyone would just be like, "We've won the World Cup for the next month," right? And no one would pay attention. So they're notorious for doing that. I think he's done it in the other way. That the spat between him and Elon.
Do you think he was like just sending the National Guard to distract from it?
He turned around. So a couple of days beforehand, he turned around and was like, "So the Elon Musk stuff kicked off." Then he turned around in a meeting and said, "This was like the day before the riot started." He said, "We want to 5x the amount of people we're deporting." and just be aggressive about it. So then they went straight into LA because LA is a sanctuary state.
Yeah, I didn't know that until all this kicked off.
And then, of course, people started rioting. So then that went on for a little. It wasn't even rioting to begin with. It was protests that then converted into rioting. And
I think people that go looting when these things are happening, they've got nothing to do with what's actually going on. They're just arseholes taking advantage.
Of course. But that doesn't help when, the police are sort of around like helping. And then Trump sits there and goes, you know what this needs? Gasoline.
Send in the National Guard.
We'll send in the National Guard.
Well, and the thing is, it had calmed down as well, hadn't it? And
we'll send in the Marines. What are the Marines going to do?
I mean, the thing is, I think if you're someone out protesting in America with Trump in charge, you're a fucking brave person.
I think you're a brave person. Like, look at what happened.
Well, look, I think it's brave in general, but in a country like America where everyone's got guns.
Well, look at bloody Carl Rittenhouse. The man walked out when the what was it? The Black Lives Matter protest was going on and just started shooting protesters and then got acquitted for it. Like, they didn't care. He became this bloody right-wing, like, hero, like, of, oh, look, he was vanquishing the evil. And he just walked out and shot a load of black people. Yeah. Like, what are you, like...
I also find, like, almost the shock over this behaviour from Trump confusing, because I'm like, well, this is his playbook. Like, the insurrection on, what was it, January the 6th, where, like, he, like, incited violence. Like, it's not surprising.
And then what did he do? He walked into power again and acquitted a load of them.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and now he's like, oh, look at these violent protests. It was like, well, they still haven't stormed
the Capitol.
The Capitol. So, like, if these are violent protesters, what we're saying about, you even when they did the insurrection, they didn't call in the National Guard and whatever else in.
Yeah.
And the Marines.
I mean, what was the other thing I was going to mention?
I genuinely think that he was sitting down watching, like, Starship Troopers.
I love that film, by the way.
I love the film, but it's like basically like fascism written down to a T.
Yeah, they have to have a license to have a kid. All that stuff.
I think he's watching that and going, I want to do that because I want to shoot some aliens, and like that has just been his mantra moving forwards. And I like to think it's that and not.
Do you know what I think is going on mass? Really, and we're seeing it in this country as well. Is the desperation to spin the story that the foreigner's the problem. Is because we're getting to a point where people's tolerance for what's going on in their daily lives, what's not available to them, and if you look at America, when you add in like the fact they don't have healthcare and things like that, people are getting more and more desperate. So they need to have something to blame. So they choose to say it's immigrants that are the problem, when actually, by and large, if you look at all statistics and all measures, immigrants are a net positive to a country rather than a negative. But if we tell that truth, we then have to look at the billionaires and the wealthy and all of that. And that's fundamentally what the issue is. The issue isn't hard-working immigrants, whether they're legal, illegal or otherwise. Most of them are hard-working people that just want a better life.
This is nothing new. This is going on for a long time. So I watched a really good film called The Big Short.
Yes, love that film.
About the 2008 financial crisis. And even in that, they're like, once they get to the end of what happens and everything crashes, they're like, oh yeah, and then all the bankers got
put in jail and all of this,
whatever else. And then they sort of go like, psych, they just blamed it on immigrants. And
there was just one guy that went to jail, wasn't there? Some poor fuck.
And it's like, this is nothing new in terms of that. But the difference is now, for a long time, it's been getting worse. Like the rate of what you're getting paid is not going up anywhere near compared to the cost of living for buying groceries, having a house, renting, all these things. So the people at the bottom are now having less money than they ever did before. The rich are getting richer, but to keep the people at the bottom divided, they're saying, well, it's nothing that we're doing up here as the super wealthy. We're doing everything we can for you. It's the immigrants. They're taking what's yours. And it's just not the case, but they're going to keep spinning that thing because it keeps the people at the bottom infighting. And I think I saw it on like Instagram or something where it was like the quote from Ants, the film Ants, with the crickets talking about, and they've got the ants enslaved, and it's like they're stronger than us because there's more of them, but we have to keep them like they can't realise that, and we got to keep them infighting.
Yeah, and what you're seeing from Trump is as close to authoritarian, and we're getting to the point now where violence is being used to to quell it.
It's the burger Reich. And then he keeps walking around saying like, oh yeah, we're getting rid of the bad immigrants. But a lot of the ones they're picking up, it's people going to like, someone got picked up going to their naturalization ceremony.
Yeah, so I heard that.
And like the people in LA, a lot of the immigrants they're picking up, like they're going to courthouses. The people are going to see the judge. They're talking to the judge about trying to go through the process, and then getting carted off as they leave the court. And they're not allowed to do that.
And they're even taking people that actually have a green card but haven't got citizenship as well.
Oh, and then they just revoke the green card. And
like there was one I saw earlier, a man, his wife literally on camera's getting taken away, and he's in floods of tears. He's like, she's got a green card. Like,
yeah, it don't matter.
Yeah, it don't matter, mate.
You know, and they're saying it's all these murderers and stuff, and it's not. A lot of the undocumented immigrants in there. The reason that they're able to collect them up at the moment so easily is because the undocumented immigrants have to go in to like the immigration and say, by the way, I'm undocumented. I have to check in like every 2 months. Here's all my details. Here's me paying my taxes.
Yeah.
This is how they know where they are. And then they can just be like, oh yeah, we just go to that house because he's undocumented and kick him out. And it's like, yeah, but he's paying his bloody taxes. Like, you're just taking away money from you. You're just...
and you're losing your workforce. You're losing taxpayers. You're losing everything.
Yeah. But I think James O'Brien said something quite thing where it was like, you know, when America coughs, you know, Britain catches a cold, you know, watching over there isn't necessarily a thing of, oh yeah, we'll laugh at them because we've got our own problems brewing.
Well, no, like you see what's gone on in Ballymena in Ireland, where I believe a young girl was sexually assaulted, and it was by, I believe, a white man or two white men, but it's turned into racial riots. Where people have literally gone and burnt homes, like literally set fire to homes in Ireland. And like I find it very difficult not to look at even Keir Starmer and be like their behaviour since coming into power, where we're still villainising these people that are coming over. And I find it quite terrifying, to be honest with you.
But if you roll back, a few, sort of 40, 50 years, the amount of things there used to be for the Irish coming over and being like, well, they're elite. You know what I mean? Like, it's a moving goalpost.
There's always a different group of people that are being used as the problem. Before it was at one point the Windrush generation. It was the Jews, it was the Irish. It's always, there's just a group of people. We go, they're the problem.
Eastern Europeans, we got rid of Brexit, and now it's, there's always someone else. And I think, I remember studying this in school in terms of the play that was like, who's gonna help me? I didn't help them when they came for them. Who's gonna help me when they come for me?
I think it was a poem, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I remember studying that in like English in like GCSE grade, and it's like,
wasn't it something about a hungry yam or something like that? He was like eating a yam and they came for the neighbour, and
and then there was no one to cut, there was no one to help him when they came for him, and that's what will happen eventually. It will be more and more subgroups, and we've got to fight away from that.
I don't really know how we fight it, to be honest with you. I honestly don't. Like, the problem is because it works. Like, there's someone we know, and I mentioned it on the pod recently, where there was a fucking video about a bloke in Greggs. You can't even see the colour of his skin in the video, talking about the fact, Greggs, could you have some halal hot food options? And the tagline to the video was, if Greggs goes halal, the country's gone. And I was like, what do you think we're losing?
Yeah.
And British values was the answer. And I was like, all right, well, what British values? And I was like, I literally did a quick Google. Oh, there's 2 million Muslims in the UK, so I would argue that's very much part of British values, that there's 2 million British Muslims. So what are we losing? So it's working. Like, people are getting angry about the stupidest shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think like the only way we do it is by, and it's difficult when there's people we know that are saying stupid shit. We have to try and re-educate them. It's really difficult because I get caught in two minds, because I've always been like, you need to not try and talk down to them, because otherwise it puts their back up and it doesn't work. But other times with stuff like that, they're being so fucking stupid, it feels impossible.
I always look at the idea of being like, we went to a very much cool school. It was quite a rough school in general, and it's like, so were all the white people like the really good ones who got the best grades, and like were all
they weren't, were they?
Exactly. Like, half, as many of the people who
the
were
thing
problem
is,
children were
again,
white.
with that, people will go, well, we need to do something because the white boys are being left behind. How about we learn from these other cultures? Like, there's a guy called Akala. He's a rapper and an educational guy. He does poems, does academics. And he was like, there was Pan-African Saturday schools.
Yeah.
So for all the Windrush people that came over, they were shocked by the standard of our education system. So they created their own outside of it. And all of the people that would be in those schools would get remarkably better grades than their white working class counterparts.
Yeah.
And it's a cultural thing where for some reason we don't value education as highly as other cultures do.
Yeah, when you look at the stats, it's like, is it like Denmark and like Finland or something, where they're like the education levels are so much higher, and it's based around funding at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, the idea is the more educated the population is, then the better the standard of living should be. That's the idea.
Well, but the problem is, if you're a rich person, you just see that as a dangerous thing.
Yeah, exactly.
The more educated the population is, the
more likely they are to wake up and be, oh wait, it's not all the immigrants, it's the rich people at the top manipulating the situation.
Yeah. And the problem is, the reason I don't have much hope is because I look at what Keir Starmer was saying prior to being elected and the way he behaves now, where we are genuinely headed towards, I think it's going to happen, Farage in government in some capacity. Because as it stands, Labour aren't doing anything to change people's minds. Like, even I'm a little bit confused about it because I don't really understand what people's problems were then. With like the winter fuel allowance, we had a go at them for cancelling it, and they go, fine, we'll bring it back. And then we're like, why the fuck have you brought it back? Young people aren't getting money. And it's like,
but they're always going to find a reason to thing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the key one is they used it as a bit of a bird. I think there was something recently running around where it was like, you know, Keir Starmer says, oh, you want to stop all this immigration, but, you know, Farage voted against the immigration bill. Yeah. And it's like, and he's using that as a win. And you're like, but that suggests, Keir, that you voted for the immigration bill that you're trying to stop here. Are we trying to be the same as the Tories, and are we just giving up to reform, or is this just the way that we are?
And I actually think Keir Starmer's in a position to do something different. He's in a position to make radical change happen, and to actually, like, if he wanted to solidify a position of power, that would be the way to go about it. And even because the thing is, he was in a position, if he'd have came in from day one and gone, look, I know we said we weren't going to raise taxes and we weren't going to do this. We are, just not for working people. We're going to add a wealth tax or, you know, something like that. And it's going to bring in X amount of money. It's going to change X, Y, and Z. And it doesn't matter how angry people would have been. By the end of a 5-year term in government, there would have been marked improvements across the board, and he stays in power. Whereas now what's going to happen is, I don't know if Farage is going to be Prime Minister, but I'm pretty sure Keir Starmer won't be.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think there's people weren't happy with the Tories because of the way they're behaving. They wanted a big change, and the sentiment around him at the moment is he's Tory light.
Oh, he is.
And that's the problem, right? People wanted change, and you're just being more of the same.
Yeah.
You're going to get ousted because the people want the change.
Yeah.
And the problem is, as much as you might tell people, well, Farage will just be slightly more racist Tories, but he's still going to be Tory. He's still going to do privatising the NHS and all the rest of it.
He famously said, and Starmer brought it up recently, that Liz Truss's budget was the best Tory budget in a generation. That was Farage. It came out of Farage's mouth. And like, it's funny, any reform representative you see on any sort of debate, they've got no answers for anything.
They don't have policy. They're just,
well, no, they don't. That's the problem.
They're just, we get rid of the immigrants, and they'll be like, how, which ones, why, what are you doing, how is that going to work?
I saw Farage get asked recently about immigration. He's like, well, I don't know the numbers. He's like, ask me when I'm in power. And it's like,
but you've got to get, you need to know the numbers before you get in power. That's the point. You can't just get there and be like, right, what are we doing about this?
Immigration has been his thing,
his
entire. How do you not know the numbers? If I was like, I don't know, focused in anything, I'd be like, I would want to know everything. Do you know what I mean? So that if, like, I don't know if you've ever watched him. There's a guy called Gary's Economics. It's Gary Stevenson. He used to work in Wall Street, not Wall Street, the banking system.
He was a trader, wasn't he?
Yeah. There's not anything you could ask him about finance that he wouldn't know an answer to. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Farage, who'd like to run the country, ain't got an answer for anything.
But I think he does. The problem is I don't.
There's no detail to it.
No, but he does have the detail. The problem is the story he's selling, the detail doesn't line up with the story he's selling.
That's
so it's
very true.
easier for him to turn around and say, "Oh, I don't know the numbers," than it is to admit that the numbers don't line up.
No.
Because then that doesn't follow with his thing. So he'd just be like, "Oh, I'll deal with that later." But he knows in the same way Trump knows the numbers, and he's lying, saying it's all these criminals they're pumping out, and as he deports people's like helpers and like nurses and gardeners, he knows the numbers. They don't line up, so the lie will fall apart, and that's the most powerful part of politics.
I think basically what we're waiting to happen is for there to be some sort of breaking point where everyone has enough and there's some sort of change. That basically sort of feels like the path we're on.
I think it's just lining up for war.
Who do you think we'll be at war with?
I don't know, but
someone.
It's got that history repeats itself. It's got that smell at the moment. As like everyone just wants a fight. Everyone wants a rock. You had that thing between.
How old
India
are you? You're 32.
Yeah.
I think we're both just out of conscription age, aren't we?
Well, I hopefully with where I with my skill set, I probably wouldn't have ended up on the front lines.
Whereas
anyway.
I'd fucking end up on the front lines.
Oh yeah,
I?
you would be running through the.
No,
song.
I'm hoping my weight would. They'd be like, look, we just come on.
If it got bad enough, they'd just be like, we can train you. Don't worry about it.
Look, I pitched with Jake. I think we should be like, we'll do a war podcast. I'll be on the front lines with the mic. I don't mind. Like in a little bunker somewhere, we'll talk about what's going on.
Hi guys.
That was why the whole "Good Morning Vietnam" thing came from. I'll yell "Good Morning Donbass." Do you know what I mean?
Just like this. Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Bombing with Swords with me, Private Andrew.
I think Crossing Swords is the right branding for it. We're at war.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
Might be crossing bayonets.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
No, we'll stick to Crossing Swords. Well, this has been a fucking roller coaster, mate. I've not looked at my notes once. Oh, no, I looked at them once. That's a lie.
Should we try and go a bit more? We've been a bit doomsday.
Go on, yeah.
Should we try and talk a bit more positively?
As long as we don't talk about England, because that's not going to be positive.
Okay. But we could talk about football.
We can talk about football. What would you like to discuss?
How are you feeling? How is your feelings with football right now as a collective?
I'm probably the least interested in football I've ever been, in terms of like how much time I spend listening to football content, watching. Like I watch the least football now I've ever watched in my life. I find it very difficult to relate to. I find football in general quite boring to watch now. I lay that at the responsibility mostly at fucking Pep Guardiola's feet. Like I find the money really unrelatable in it. Like it makes it mental. And like you get people saying, "Oh, but he's a £40 million player." No, he's not.
Yeah,
he's not. Like Florian Wirtz, like back in the day, that would have been a £30 million transfer, 40 million tops. Do you know what I mean?
If you go back bloody early enough, it would have been like
£1.5 million was
£1 million or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I dislike the fact that we put these rules in place to keep things in check, and then teams just find ways of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same as any financial system. I guess they just find ways around it. Yeah, I still enjoy talking about it to a degree, but other than that, what about you?
I feel that it was really weird this year to watch the 3 European finals and the FA Cup final, and then be like, oh, but alright guys, there's another Premier League game in the coming weekend. I think the only one that didn't was the Conference League. The Chelsea one was after the final game of the season. But whereas
normally, traditionally, the European finals are all at the end, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. But I think because they extended the season out to try and ease the congestion, but then they've put more games in it.
Yeah.
And we must be walking into a point in which if you are, the best of the best, you're in one of the best teams in the world, like a City, you're playing for your national team, you're playing in all these tournaments, you must be hitting like 100 games in a season. But by the time you add on Europe and like the national leagues and whatever else, then you add on this stupid football World Cup.
Oh, Club World Cup, yeah.
Some of these players are going to hit like 100 games over like 9 months.
Yeah, I think I heard something like Bukayo Saka, by the end of that tournament, I think they said like 2 years he won't have had a week off.
It's ridiculous. So they took away like the FA Cup. They got rid of the replays, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they got rid of that to get less games in. Then United went on a post-season tour after their awful season. Yeah. So they're getting more games in. Then you had the last couple of the weeks, they've had the what is it? The league, the World
Oh,
Cup
the
League.
Nations League.
That's it. And then now they've had a mini transfer window that they've then shut, and now they're going to go into another tournament for like £1 billion total prize money. I think the winner gets like 100 million.
Yeah.
It just
And they've screwed teams over with that as well, haven't they?
But that is the same European Super League that everyone got and writed about, effectively just in a mini tournament form.
Yeah, and it's just separated, isn't it?
And it's just separated in, we get in by some arbitrary reasoning to get into it.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I don't necessarily blame Pep Guardiola for the fact that football's feels like worse. I blame the amount of games. I just think you've got so many players going through so many games. You're hitting nearly 100 games, which works out over like 9 months must be like a game every 3 days for like 9 months. Ridiculous amount of games going on. How can the human body at a certain point perform like that year after year after year?
Well, it can't, can it?
You know, no wonder the flares going, because they're all bloody knackered. They're all trying to get through the minimum thing to get through the games. Every game matters because everyone's trying.
And
hard.
it doesn't really get the attention it should because of how well most players at that level are paid.
This idea, well, he's on 300 grand a week,
so I just suck it up.
And it's like, if you worked for a year, if you earned 300 grand a week, but you worked like every 3 days, you were playing a match, plus training, plus travel, plus everything.
Yeah.
You're telling me you'd be able to do your job for 10 years without a proper break, at a top level, without a break of any kind. And you earn lots of money, but like money doesn't let you spend time with your family. Money doesn't, they have a very short career and they'll be fine afterwards. But to a certain level, I feel bad. And I think a lot of the things that the players were saying where it was like, there's too many games, you're not looking after us as individuals.
It means that like, there's so much football, I lose interest in football. I never watch England. I didn't watch any of the recent games. I
thought one of them was on.
No, that's the thing. I never know England are playing, first off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not for, I mean, like, look, I watched the Palace final, loved that. That's a remarkable moment. But yeah, outside of that, like the only reason I pay attention to football is so I can put bets on.
I think the Palace final was a great moment. I just find but that's a great moment in the same way that like when Leicester won the league, that was a great moment, is because it's the underdog winning it. If City had won that game and then they go off to this like Club World Cup and whatever else, it almost just gets swept on. Like it doesn't matter. There's so many of these big blockbuster games nowadays, especially with the way that they've changed the Champions League now, so it's a league format. So so that means that the big teams basically guaranteed to get their way through it. You know, so much of this is built towards the top, and you're seeing the after effect of a lot of this, where like nowadays in the Premier League, if you come up, you're 90% chance of getting relegated. You're almost guaranteed to go back down at some pitiful amount of points that is just arbitrary now, of like, you're just going to get whipped, and maybe 6 seasons down the line, you'll eventually build up enough players and money.
That, like, United and Spurs finished so low, but yet we're nowhere in near danger of going down.
Spurs lost 22 games and
they were like 13 points clear, I think, at the end of the season or something like that.
Screams everything.
Yeah.
Not that United were particularly any better, but like that. But I think that just says everything you need to know. If you lose, you can lose 22 games
and be fine. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's mental. It's mental. But yeah.
And then they're going to have this tournament, and then there's going to be like 2 weeks or something, and then it all starts up again.
Yeah.
There's no break anymore.
No. The thing is, like with the Nations League, because that gets a lot of stick because it's like a nothing tournament, but at the same time, it gives the smaller nations a chance to get into the bigger competitions where they couldn't before.
I do agree on that angle. I just think there's too many games.
Yeah.
Like, could they not do, instead of having like these big groups of like 6 to 7 teams, couldn't they just do like a little one of like 3-4 teams?
Yeah.
And just let winners have some sort of seeding, let the winners get through. Just do it in a smaller pot. There's less games then. You're only talking about 6 games instead of whatever that block is of games.
Yeah.
Just do it a bit more like that. Maybe you won't get as many get through. I don't know.
Maybe. But yeah, I mean, look, this was supposed to be a more upbeat topic, Andrew.
Never upbeat.
But yeah, I mean, look, we might as well talk about England while we're talking about football. They lost. They're doing poor. Why the fuck is Jordan Henderson anywhere near that England team?
I think he just wants the experience, doesn't he? I guess.
What, of not winning?
Didn't he go to Ajax and then they had like a really bad
That their worst season in years.
and he's like, oh, okay.
I almost feel sorry for Jordan Henderson because he had a spectacular career at Liverpool where, by and large, he performed well above what you would consider to be his level, achieved things that were above his level, played well for England, like he was part of a team that did well. Makes a very poor decision to go out to the Middle East, made no money from it.
Yeah,
because if you come back to Europe, you'd have to pay a ridiculous rate of tax if you took any of that money.
Yeah.
So he was like, all right, I have to write off every penny I was going to earn from this. Goes to Ajax, goes atrociously. And
I think not every player can be like the sexy sort of player who does like all the things that you could possibly want them to do.
No.
Right? Like not every player is. There are going to be.
They can't be a me at 5-a-side.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You are going to have your sort of Jane Milner who are like they're good.
I think
players.
he's an unsung hero. That man.
No,
Isn't he still playing?
Probably.
I think he's at Brighton.
Yeah, I think he will. I know he went to Brighton. I don't know if he's still
he must
there.
be 40 now.
But you know what I mean, like that sort of unsung player who
You
sort
need
of
the water carriers.
Work. And I think Jordan Henderson was that. And I think he did well as a captain. Like I think he kept himself well composed and he made a bad decision to go to the thing. But whatever, he was trying to work out.
Shocking!
Oh, no.
The alarm went off.
Oh no!
Was that a phone call?
It was a phone call.
Was it the missus?
It was.
Oh no!
Yeah, I don't know. I just think not every player can be fun and like the sort of poster child sort of player. And I think he had a really good career. And if Tuchel throws him in as like a bit of experience to get to know like a bit more about the England squad, if you know what I mean, because he's sort of been there a bit.
Yeah, I just think though, in a world where we actually haven't got that many holding midfielders, but we've got a couple of really good young ones like Adam Wharton, for example. Look, obviously Palace hat is very heavily on, but I still maintain when I look back at the last tournament we were in, I still think he could have done a job in that midfield. I still think it would be more value to have Adam Wharton in, play him, let him get experience in an England shirt than giving more game time. I don't even think he got on, to be fair, Jordan Henderson, but he's taking up a squad space.
I do agree. I think that Tuchel's come in and he's trying to work out what he does and doesn't.
Do we win the World Cup with Tuchel? Because that's the aim. That's what he says the bar is. That's what he's been brought in for.
He's got a. No, I don't think we do.
No,
but I don't.
To be honest, I don't know if there's any manager you could have put in charge where I'd be like.
I think you could put in Allegri in, right? Who, with PSG just won it. The squad looks amazing.
Enrique.
Else. Sorry, yeah.
And
I still don't think England win it. Like there's the voodoo around it. I just don't think we do. Just inherently, and like maybe he can. He has proved himself sort of historically to be pretty good as like a cup manager, and that's what you sort of need. Sort of an unwanted thing. But I think if you'd got like Jose Mourinho in, I think he could have the ability to do it because like he is a cup expert.
Part of me would just love to watch him burn it to the ground.
Yeah,
not
that it would be fun at all. And Henderson, 100%. If you got Jose Mourinho in tomorrow, Henderson starts every game. 100%.
What, Mourinho?
Yeah. Jordan Henderson is in there starting every game as some like war chief sitting next to Rice, and he looks at Rice and goes, "You do not move. You stay there."
Yeah.
But, I think sometimes somewhere along the line, I think for England, like as fans, we have to decide what's more important. Do we want to play the pretty attractive football or do we want to win a tournament?
That's the thing though. If you look at Wales and the way they're playing under Craig Bellamy, I'd far rather lose a game 4-3 playing that style of football than playing the way we did under Gareth Southgate or currently under Tuchel so far. Do you know what I mean? I'd far rather watch England go out, giving it a fucking go.
But then I remember who was the assistant coach that came in between Southgate and Tuchel?
Oh, Lee Carsley.
But then he came out there, played some like really weird formations, like he put like.
I think what he did was quite clever in the sense of everything the fans wanted.
He just did it.
He was like, I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And you watch how this works. But I don't think that's necessarily style of football. I think it was you want Grealish, Foden, Jude Bellingham, and this player all in the team at the same time. So he was like, I'm going to give you that, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing, right? Everyone says, well, this is what we should do, and then it doesn't work, and then everyone gets all high horse and mighty.
I don't think you have to pander to everything the fans want. I think you can play attractive football without compromising the ability of the team or its ability to be cohesive. Like we've seen, like if again Palace hat on. If I look at Oliver Glasner, he's taken in some positions more average players, but turned us into a unit that defends well and attacks even better. So just do that. Do you know what I mean?
But I wonder how easy is that in which you're playing with players who like they see them how often?
I'd say Craig Bellamy. Do you know what I mean? If you genuinely go, when you finish what we finished doing this, when you have the chance, I know you're a busy man, look at their most recent game against just Belgium where they lose 4-3.
Yeah, but how
the
long,
style of football they're playing.
how long has he been in that job?
Not that long, less than a year, I think.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll give it a look. I just,
Because I think he got it temporarily at first, and he's just done. I think he went 9 games unbeaten before the Belgium game.
Yeah, but how many games has Tuchel had?
Two.
Not in international football, playing like 9-10 games is a big difference between. I just think in terms of time.
No, look,
you know what I mean.
I could be wrong, and but I don't see Tuchel working out now. Just based off of 2 games, I'm going to call it here. I'm going to go bold. I actually saw someone else say, a journalist, where he was like, "I don't think he makes it to the World Cup."
Is that the coming one, the World Cup?
Yeah. They don't think he makes it to the World Cup.
As long as they qualify, he'll definitely get the World Up. Like unless they turn around and like go up and play like Liverpool.
I don't want to see us at the World Cup with fucking Jordan Henderson in that team. I just don't want to see it.
I don't think he will.
I hope not.
I also, to be honest with you, don't want to see us with Kyle Walker.
That one I think is slightly more justifiable. I think
I will agree on that.
Because he's playing at AC Milan at a higher level than Jordan Henderson is.
I do agree on that point. I just think he.
But I agree that I think we need to move on from the older players.
He's clearly had it, and like I love Kyle Walker. Like as a player, I think he's been
fucking knobhead off the idiot
100%.
Like honestly, just how someone can knock a woman up, get rinsed to fuck, and then do it again with the same woman. The same woman, Andrew.
He. Let's be fair. He headers a ball a lot and he runs fast.
She must smoke it off its hinges. That's all I can say.
I just don't think he's bright enough to work.
No. When you're like, he's been in court being bent over for cash by this woman, and then he goes around her house to pick up the kid one day. I'm assuming. I don't know how it happened. But somehow he fell back on top of her. Do you know what I mean?
Do you reckon she turned up with like Clark Kent with the glasses? She put glasses on and he was like, I don't know who you are.
Oh, I can have sex with this woman. It's fine.
And then she took it off and he was like, God damn it.
Maybe that's what happened. But no, I agree. I don't think he should be in the squad either. But that one's for me slightly more justifiable than.
I think you've got to see it over a period of time. Like I don't want to just sit there and be like within 2 games he's just got he's trying to work it out.
Yeah, look, I'm being hyperbolic. I'm being a bit.
No, I know, but like it just. Also, to be fair, from the 2 games that have just gone, like who cares? Like we keep saying, these players have had a long.
Oh yeah, look,
season,
I'm not particularly bothered about the nations team.
How many of them are actually like in it? Like, oh yeah, this is big, and they're like. I just want to go on holiday. Or I've got to go prepare for this £100 million tournament the club is going, we need to do well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know how much their heads are in it at the moment. And that's what totally. I felt like when I watched the Senegal game and it was just dull.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Quality's getting worse.
It is getting worse. And I think it's only going to get worse, personally. But yeah. Fair enough. Look, mate, I've loved this. This has been good. We've been all over the place.
We have.
Particularly that first hour was a fucking whirlwind.
We were just like...
I don't think I look at my notes once during that whole thing.
We were like this. Wait, no, wrong button.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Finally gets used in context.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for coming on, mate. Like I said, I know you're a busy guy. Hopefully it'll be sooner next time. And we need to meet up for a drink at some point as well. We say that every time as well. But we'll do it.
Definitely.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. Point at the screen, Andrew. People, let us know what you thought about our thoughts. You can do that. Twitter at Swords Crossing. On Facebook at Crossing Swords, on Instagram and TikTok at CrossingSwords_podcast, and you can email us at CrossingSwords19@gmail.com. And just do us one massive favour if you're listening to this, go onto TikTok or onto YouTube, and you can do that through a link in the description of any audio episode. And just click on a video. You don't have to watch it. Just click like, leave a comment. It does a massive amount for us, and it costs you nothing.
Fucking do it.
What else is free on this planet? We're giving you high octane, high quality content for free. So yeah,
Sounds like a good deal.
I think so. So yeah, get on it, and we'll see you next week. Bye.